fighting this for a minute while we work. So the first thing I wanted to ask everyone is, so who is this their first year as a beekeeper? Okay. How many of you have gotten bees already? That's anyone not got their bees yet? Are you getting them soon? Ordered? Planning on it. Okay. So the first thing I really wanted to talk about is for all our new beekeepers who have probably gone through the process of getting their nukes and setting it up. Now what? Like, what are your burning questions? Where are you at? What do you need to talk about right now that you have your bees? Go ahead. We'll get through some of that first, and then we'll get into the content about queens. Yeah.
Did anybody help you find the queen? I'm a little more than a year, well, not quite a year into it. I'm a little more than 6 months into it. I got it last year, but I never found the queen.
Can never find the queen.
Say again? I do. Well, I know that, but I can't find her. You don't need to. I do. I went through that. I do need to find her.
So there are a couple tricks. None of them are foolproof. So the first one is the queen is physically larger than all the other bees. It helps sometimes if you kind of unfocus your eyes and you'll be drawn to the largest set of movement. That'll sometimes help you just find her quickly. The other thing you can look for is that she will always return to darkness. That sounds super like metal and ominous. But what that means is, like, if you pull a frame out and you have it up in the light, she's going to try to run to the other side pretty quick. So if you scan the edges, you might find her the fastest. The third thing is bees can crawl all over each other and do all that stuff, but they tend not to do that to the queen. They tend to move out of her way. So a queen will almost always be kind of pushing through all the bees, and they'll be making a path for her. Those are three things that can help you kind of narrow down where she might be or track her movement a little quicker. I would say probabilistically she's in the middle or center of the hive, but as soon as you try to bank on that, she will not be there. Unfortunately, those are the three things I can tell you to try to spot her, but it is no way foolproof. I will tell you that the thing you can do to make your life easier is get a paint pen, like the white paint pen, and if the day you find her, mark her. And then this will get a lot easier going forward until they requeen, and then you start over.
I'm wondering if anybody is going to meet your belt list, if anybody was going to come by and try to help you use pointers to help you find her, because I put another box on top, and I know she's been up there because there's fruit up there now, which I'm kind of hoping that would be the super. But now there's fruit up there, so I'm kind of wondering what do I do now? I'd like to find her, put her back in the bottom, and exclude her in. But
yeah,
as a novice, I have no idea if that's a good idea or not.
So that's a question that I'll answer right now. I hope that's working. We'll see in a second. I was asking before about the whole thing about, does anyone not have their bees yet and all that kind of good stuff. The other thing I was going to say is if you do need help as a first-time beekeeper, stay after class. I'll give you my phone number. And if schedules work out, I will come help you. Things like that, or you want to do your first inspection, you're not sure you're going crazy, or I don't even know how to light my smoker right. Is this all whatever? Normal stuff. I will try to help you. So that's kind of my offer with that.
I live in Bella Vista, but I'm like that first year doing bees too. But if you want a second set of eyes, or something like that.
Yeah, and I think it's generally like
I'm not going to bill myself as a professional or no much. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's generally good, like, if you're in Bella Vista or whatever, like, just swap phone numbers with other members. At least you have another pair of eyes to help make sure you don't feel crazy. So what other questions do you all have now that you have your bees?
Is there anybody here close to Garfield? No.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, over here.
Yes.
Rural mites.
Okay.
So we just got our new bees. We had them last year. Unfortunately, we lost them in the fall. They decided to upscale them. And so we're starting over again. Should we go ahead and treat now immediately for varroa mites? I ordered the stuff from Man Lake, and I can't remember the name of it. It's a sugar water packet deal that you put on top of the hive.
For varroa mites?
Yeah.
So you had a hive and it absconded. Is that what I heard?
Yes.
And then you're wondering if you should treat that hive?
No. We've got
New bees.
we've
Okay.
got a new hive now.
I see.
Yeah. And so should we go ahead and do the treatment now?
So I would say check your mite load first. It is most treatments, and it depends on what your treatment is. The sugar water one, I am drawing a blank as to what that treatment would be.
It seems to be fairly new.
There aren't many sugar water based treatments. That's why I'm drawing a blank. There are oxalic acid drips, but there's not usually a sugar water. So you need to know what your treatment is and if you have a mite load, because most treatments are kind of taxing on your bees. And so if you don't need to treat, don't put them through the ordeal. And all treatments have very specific requirements on when and how you treat them. And if you misuse that, you could kill your hive. So you need to know exactly the parameters of the treatment, and that has to line up with the fact that you have a mite load that is worth treating. So if you haven't checked your mite load, that's the first step. Then the second step is be very sure you know what the directions are for your treatment. There'll be temperature restrictions. There will be restrictions about if it's going to be near honey. All that stuff you have to pay very close attention to, because that stuff is poisonous and toxic and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of my short answer on that one. Yeah.
Well, is there a certain time of year where those hive beetles show up, or is it just anytime?
They're always around. They'll always be in your hive, but they do blow up at certain times a year just based on their life cycle. In general, though, I'm going to tell you that hive beetles are not a thing to really worry about. Unless your hive is getting particularly weak, they will deal with the hive beetles. There are things you can do. You can get beetle traps. You can do. There are specific kinds of like paper towels you can put in that'll trap them. Some people like those. I've tried them, and I just think it makes a mess out of everything, and I don't care about them enough. But you will go crazy trying to get rid of hive beetles because they're just going to come back in. So unless your hive is getting weak, I will tell you that your bees will manage your beetles population. But they'll always be around. You'll always see them kind of running here and there. Yeah.
What about if you get little ants in there?
I wouldn't sweat it. Yeah. You'll see all kinds of stuff that moves into your hive. You'll find cockroaches. You'll find all kinds of stuff that managed to get in there and not die. I found lizards in hives, and I'm amazed by that. And then I open the hive, and the lizard's like, "Oh, I'm going to run." It runs into the bees, and then it dies because it gets stung to death. Like, well, you chose poorly. But that's, yeah, you're going to find all kinds of stuff. I've had lots of ant colonies move in between the outer cover and inner cover. Like full ant colonies try to move in there. And every week I kill them, and they just come back. They're like, "This is perfect. It's warm. It's all this great things." I'm like, "Get out of my hive." But you show up. Yeah.
Answer to your question, I've used ashes.
Oh, diatomaceous earth.
No, just ashes.
Oh, just ashes.
And that helps.
They don't dance them like that.
I've put cinnamon around there,
I've heard
and
that.
then I put cement, because I have a lot of vents, so I
And the
heard
cinnamon?
that did not. Well, I don't know if it really helped in my head.
And then
So ash.
I've had a little more trouble with hive beetles than you have, I guess, but I've had one that's down because I had so many hive beetles.
Yeah.
And so I use the oil traps, the beetle blasters, they work once, and then you'll clean them out. They seem to come in there. I had a bunch of hits.
Well, I don't know if I have any or not, because I really didn't.
You'll see, you
I just-
take the cover off, you'll see it start coming around.
Okay.
If I have more than 4 or 5, then I start to see it. I put swiffer sheets on top of mine, unscented swiffer sheets.
Oh,
Unscented what?
Swiffer sheets.
Yep.
I cut them in half. I buy the cheap ones from Walmart, cut them in half.
And
Put
that
water
helps,
in each one.
that helps with the hot beetles?
Yes. I put them on top of the sheet. Put them on top.
Okay.
There's also it's a Scott towel, specific kind of Scott towel, like for, and it's like that kind of clothy fabric. And those are
I
also,
tried that too.
yeah. But they're in the same vein of the bees will fray it and then the beetles get trapped.
But you're right, they do.
Yeah.
They're dragging, they'll drag those swiffer sheets down to the middle of the hive. Put them on bottom.
So you put
Some of them
it,
like them, some of them don't.
you put it on a cleaning spooner,
I'll put a cleaning spooner on top of it. Yeah.
okay, you put the cleaning spooner on top of it.
Mhm.
Okay, 'cause I put mine down at the, underneath the hive.
My understanding is that the bees will try to force the hive up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put them at the top.
When they want to get up to the top.
Yeah.
So,
The beetles will try to get away from the bees. So this is particularly important if you like are preempting, like putting a honey super on early or whatever. They will prefer to be in that space by themselves. So you want to put the towels in between them and where they're going to be running up to so they can get caught. The bees will still chew it up on the way and make the trap work. But yeah, they're going to try to move to the space that they can claim as their own. They don't want to be down in the brood where the bees are going to be chasing them and biting them all the time. They'll move up to get to the empty spaces.
well, the swiffer sheets will kill some ants too. They'll put it-
Yeah, some of them get trapped.
When do you do your first inspection after you install the nets?
I would,
How long do you wait?
so my general guidance would be give them a solid week before you go messing with them. Technically, it doesn't really matter, but you want to let them deal with the stress of being transported and installed. So I'd give them a solid week. Really, your only risk right after installing a nuke is absconding, and you don't need to open your hive to know that because it'll just be empty. So I'd give it a solid week before I go opening
I
it
have
up.
had a few dudes that filled up. So I
Yeah.
put it in a box on.
Yeah, and if you're running in a nuke box, yes, that's a concern. If you've installed them in a bigger hive, nothing should go seriously wrong in a week, other than absconding. Uh-huh.
So the honey super from last year has no honey left in them. They ate all the honey before they were together.
Uh-huh.
And so, but we got a lot of wax. Is it okay to reuse those frames?
Please, yes,
That's what I thought. Okay.
yeah. It's one of the best things you can give your hive is pre-drawn wax.
I freeze it for 2
Yeah. So,
days.
Yeah, we did that. Yeah,
So
we
wax-
did wax moths and honey.
wax moths are a nightmare to deal with. They're not like bees will deal with them themselves pretty much, but as a beekeeper, they're an absolute nightmare. So you freeze the wax to kill the larvae and stuff in them. That doesn't mean they won't come back in, but it will make sure they don't just blossom up into wax moths while you're waiting. There's kind of a whole art to keeping your wax intact because the wax moths find a way. But yeah.
And then the guy that we bought the bees from this year was different from last year. And he actually said not to put the honey super on right away. Is that advisable or should we?
To not put it on the new bees that
Yeah.
you just put in.
Yeah, so we've got the new bees and right now we just have the brood box covered. Is it not gonna hurt anything, but
Well, they need to be protected.
Yeah, I mean
There's not enough bees in it, they
yeah. So that's really the only thing is if you give the bees too much room that they aren't ready to deal with, that's when hive beetles get to have fun. That's when wax moths move in. That's because it's space the bees don't mess with. It's not I wouldn't say it's a definitive rule. It's more of you have to judge how much your hive is growing because there's an art to it. Like if you don't put it on soon enough, they may start to feel like they need to swarm. If you put it on too early, then you're just going to open it up and it'll just be beetles running everywhere. Or you'll see wax moths suddenly destroying it and you'll want to scream because it's nasty. So yeah, I would let them get a few frames in of like building out some frames and then I'd say go for it. Plop it on.
We got 10 frames.
Like if
I
they
thought I bought 5 frames, but he gave us 10 frames of they were.
so if he's giving you a full,
If you look in there and you've got
yeah,
nails and all that stuff in there,
Yeah.
I just go ahead and throw it on there.
if you've got
Just throw it in there.
6 or 7 frames of activity, go for it. Yeah. Yeah. If you had gotten just a nuke, I'd say wait till they'd filled out till about 7.
Yeah.
But if you've got a full hive already, then yeah, go.
There's probably maybe 1 or 2 frames that are light. They still have these on them.
Oh yeah, they'll never fill out the farthest ones. Yeah,
You say that again, they won't go out the end, is that what you said?
pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. You can get it to happen, but most beekeepers will find that the outermost frames on a 10 frame setup will have very light treatment. Over the years, they'll fill it out and use it. But if you're waiting for them to do it, you will be waiting a long time. Yeah. There are tricks to make them do it, but that's all fussiness. That doesn't really, not worth your time in the beginning. Yeah, you can jiggle the frames around and then force them and then move them back and all that kind of stuff. But in the beginning, I wouldn't sweat it. What else you got? Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm trying to get the queen moved down and stay down.
Mhm.
She's in the upper box.
Yeah.
Where there's brood.
Yeah.
But that bottom box it's mostly full of honey. There is some brood in there. So I'm concerned if I did move her down, where would she lay the eggs if it's full of honey, or will they just deal with that themselves?
So do you run a double brood chamber?
No.
Are the 2 boxes the same size? Do you have like a deep and a medium?
Yes.
Okay.
It's deep and shallow, but
I would say it should work itself out. However, if the bottom box is truly full of honey and you put her down there, she's not going to be able to do anything. That's a common problem with a double deep setup that they don't get swapped. Your situation's a little different. What you could do is, if you have more boxes, you can put some in between that you can start using while eventually they work their way back down. I without seeing it, I couldn't give you specifics about if you should bother with that. But if you want to force her to move down quick, you can just open the lid and let light shine in, and she'll want to walk away because she doesn't like to be near light. So if you shine light in it, if you start walking and looking through it, she's naturally going to want to head down. So it's pretty low tech to make her want to head further down. If your bottom box has no room for her, that's a slightly different problem. And that unfortunately is not so easy for me to give a quick answer to.
it's not, it's not completely full of honey, but
Yeah.
it's got a lot more honey. At least last time I looked at it, it had a lot more honey than it did brood. There was some brood in there.
They'll correct that then. Like if it's not like a full super of honey, they'll eat their way through. They'll move it. They can do that. So that's something they'll self-correct. If it is completely full and you put the queen down there, not so great. But if it's just like, yeah, there's some that's there, but there's like, they're just filling it, but not done, I think you're fine. Yeah.
You can move anything that's empty into the center. If you've got any empty in there on the bottom that's got honey in, you can move them to the center, and then that way she's got something to work with.
Yeah. Move the ones they haven't
She's
put
got
in.
something to work, because usually they'll start in the middle.
Yep. So she'll want to work in the middle out typically. So if you have some that they haven't put honey in that has wax, move those to the middle, push the honey further out, get the queen down there with light or whatever, and she'll start working.
Those end ones that are not really messing with them, that was
Yeah.
actually one of my questions, is why aren't they doing that? I guess that's just normal, but
It is.
Those who put them near the middle that may have an effect on them.
Yeah, so bees kind of build out roughly in this kind of sphere shape. Roughly, it'd be more like a tree, I guess. It's where they kind of fill out and then start moving up. But it is a common issue that they just are not going to fill out everything, and unless you intervene, they typically just aren't going to. So I would give guidance like, if you have a 10 frame setup, don't expect the ends to have much activity. The next 2 in a very productive hive can get pretty full. but then everything else should be full. Like they will fill out the middle, what is that, 6? Yeah, the middle 6 will be packed. The other ones will get pretty light pretty quick. Just kind of falls off a cliff. They're just like, who cares over there? You can rotate the frames around to force it, but yeah, they'll start moving up before they finish the sides.
So is it better to have a double brood chamber or is it single?
It's better if you like to. There are pros and cons to all this stuff. There's not a single answer for this one. The pros of a double deep or a double brood chamber is that you can have a very high bee population. Some people are like, that means more honey, but that's not necessarily true. The cons of a double deep are you're going to be wrestling those boxes throughout the entire season. And then when you start the year, you have to remember to swap the boxes or they'll live in the top and never move down. And then you invite all kinds of pests in. So it's more management, but the people who love it, love it. There's common advice, or it used to be common advice to run double deeps in colder climates. But even that's fading away. So I'd say it's preference. If you want the biggest hive possible, double deeps are how you were going to best pull it off. If you're not trying to say, I want the biggest hive ever, you can run completely successfully with singles.
Where do you go cheaper, but with the deep and shallow? Like, is that a better option?
Yeah, I've done that,
Go ahead.
and you gotta make sure you switch it up. If you don't, they'll move whichever one's on top.
At the end of the year?
Yeah, they move up in the
At
winter.
beginning of the year. When it's swarm season, they'll go to the top and they will not go back down.
Yeah.
So you got to move it around. If you don't, and during swarm season, if you miss 1 or 2, they're gonna swarm 1 or 2 or 3 times before you can catch it on a full double deep. Guaranteed.
It's a lot of
that for 2 years, and I said, I'm going to sing.
it's a lot of work to go through 20 frames, and
Every last bit of it.
yeah, because if you're worried about swarms, you have to go through every single frame to see if there's a swarm cell. If you miss one, they're going to swarm. If you have to find the queen, you've got to go through every single frame, and she's a moving target. So you're like, oh, I think I got her through that box. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but she might move while you're looking, and then you're still out there. You might be out there for an hour or 2 trying to find her because she's just moving around on you. Yeah. So I'm not trying to talk you out of double deeps, but it's just a different pile of work that you've got to do. I run singles, but I was kind of, when I heard the pros and cons, I was like, I'm just not about that amount of work. That's why I don't. Yeah, it's a lot of heavy lifting.
70, 75 pounds of weight each side.
Mm-hmm.
If I was to do it over again, that's what, that way I just got one set of boxes to deal with.
Yeah. It's funny. That's exactly how I wanted to start, was only mediums. And man, the amount of pushback I got from beekeepers about that one. And I was like, why? And they're like, that's stupid. You use deeps. That's the traditional way. You're hurting yourself. And I'm like, how? And they could never give me an answer. But I got convinced that that was the right way to do it. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's something to that. I mean, the people that run the 7 and 8s have really strong hives, even though they have less room technically, but they fill out more. So I've always been kind of wondering about that. What other burning questions do you have for all of you folks that have your bees now? Yeah?
So, a couple of you have talked about swapping the hives.
Rotating your boxes, yeah.
When would you have done that this year?
Right after winter ends and spring begins.
So,
I did my
middle of February?
First of April was
First of April?
I would say February is maybe a little early. I would probably go March.
See, whenever I done mine in March.
Yeah.
I checked them whenever the first warm day.
Right.
I said, well, I'll just look at it and see where they're at. Well, they was on the top, so I switched to the bottom.
Yeah. And then
I wanted the deep on the bottom, but it was on the bottom already.
Yeah.
And it was just a constant. And then I said, well, once I get them in the bottom, I'm put the queen excluder, shake all the bees off down in there, put the queen excluder, and put it back on there, and whatever hatch up top, and then she's down there and she can do whatever she wants.
So I think the theory that is going on there is if you had a double, they'd eaten up into it all winter long, and they've kind of gotten up into that upper box where they're eating and making brood. So up there, and the queen's up there as well. So you take that box and you drop it on the bottom, and then you put the empty one on the top. And so then they start making their brood again and start filling it up and work their way up because they want to kind of work.
If you're running two.
Right.
But if you're just running one, you don't have to worry about it. Unless you're feeding or something like that, take your queen excluder out, you may have them move up.
So all you experts in here, you're saying do one deep.
I'm saying,
What's the
well, now
advantage?
you can double, it's your medium, right?
I don't know.
Double deep.
I've decided I like it.
I don't have any luck, my opinion, same.
But I'm getting older, I wish I would not have done that.
Yeah.
I'm too cheap to go to switch to meetings.
I hear that.
I got,
You would do two mediums,
well,
or you would do one deep.
I think you do three mediums for equivalent for two deeps.
Something like that, yeah.
Three mediums for equivalent.
So when I was going to do it, I was going to go 2 mediums because I would run a single deep typically. But again, I was talked out of it because they're like, you're just doing the same amount of work for less. And I'm like, I guess that makes sense. But also, I don't. Yeah, exactly.
You're not looking all over the area that big. You're not picking
Yeah,
out
I'm
one
just looking at one big.
Right. What do you guys say number big?
When you start bringing it, you know, I mean, when we get the cone, I mean, is yours all, empty frame right now?
Haha.
Okay, they got cone build and all that stuff.
I just had it on YouTube where we'll start building up.
Okay, and you should be,
Because that's something
you
that-
don't need it.
Okay.
I'd go ahead and do it, let them. You got on work,
Okay.
because I mean, they've already got that box. I don't know.
I didn't buy it.
Oh, okay, you bought a whole live,
Yeah.
okay, so.
So if there is no more burning questions about what do I do with my new bees, it sounds like we're getting into some like theory, then I'm going to bore you to tears with theory about queens. Is that all right? Okay. So queen basics, I want to kind of just cover like a whole lot of stuff about queens because I've been living in hell with them the past couple weeks, so they're on my mind with splits that have gone messy. So the basic stuff I think most of us know about queens, you know, they're the ones that lay all the eggs. The craziest thing about queens, the more I think about them, is that this whole thing so a queen comes from a fertilized egg just like a worker bee does, right? And the only thing that makes them different is that they were fed royal jelly. And every time I think about it, like it's an easy fact, but it's just also just absolutely insane because it's basically like saying I went to Whole Foods, got a smoothie, and then I grew a tail. Because it completely changes the genetics of that one bee and turns what would have been a worker into a queen. It's a completely different animal just because it ate something different. And that's nuts to me. Hives know they have a queen because she has a pheromone, which is like permeates the hive, not like perfume, but it's like more physical. The bees walk it around and transmit it with their antenna. It dissipates incredibly quickly. It does not take long for them to realize they do not have a queen anymore, which is how we're able to split hives as quickly as we can because you move them away and they're like, uh-oh, because the pheromone's that fast to go away.
It's a quick
Yeah.
story about that.
Yeah.
I was taking a few frames out of a beehive the other day for an observation time to take to an elementary school. And I was lucky enough to get a queen in there. And when I was going back to put the frames back in a day later, the bees were not happy. I mean, they were not happy at all.
Uh-huh.
And the moment I got that queen in there, they just settled right back down.
Yeah.
So it was really cool, but I've seen it before. When they don't have a queen, they are not happy.
So I put queens into splits that I had made where everything went wrong so far. But I had to do that for 3 hives. Every single one of them wanted to murder me because they were queenless. And they don't care for that at all.
That's one of the ways, by the way, back, so.
Yes.
Cleaner.
If you're,
Like, you open it up, so you start with it.
yeah, if it's not,
More than just.
Yeah.
It's in there somewhere because
yeah. So this is a good point. And I want to bring it up for our new beekeepers. It's really great to go watch all these YouTube videos of people like out there without a whole lot of equipment working their hives and pretending like that's okay. It's not. It's like nothing about the reality of beekeeping comes through in a video. So how angry they are, how aggressive they are never shows up in a video. It always looks cute and pastoral and nice. And then when you walk up to work your hive, you find out it isn't always that way. And so please always have at least a veil with you. I'm not going to tell you don't work your hives barehanded, but I will tell you to keep gloves on hand, because the day you walk up and they are queenless is the day you will learn why you own gloves, because they will sting you just for saying hi. And you don't get to pick on the day that happens. You just go out there thinking it's a normal day, and they're just like, not today. Yeah, the weather can change it. You go out there on a slightly cool day, and they're just not into it. So please have protective equipment. Nothing makes beekeeping less fun than getting stung a bunch when you really just weren't into that today.
I went out in shorts last year.
Yeah.
I had everything on, all my protective gear on, except for not
Yeah.
long pants, and spent a little bit more time than I had planned on it.
Yeah.
And they were not happy with me. They chased me up the hill.
Mm-hmm.
I got stung 3 or 4 times
Yeah.
in the back of the legs.
Yep.
That friend that I mentioned that got more honey than I did, he did that same thing. He got stung so many times. He was in the shower washing off his sweat. He passed out.
Oh, wow.
Somebody knew it was to come
Wow.
get him.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to like scare anyone about it. Like, your bees, you will know their temperament, you will know their typical things. But if they're queenless, all bets are off. They're going to be mean. If it's cloudy, if it's cold, if it's raining, changes their temperament entirely. So on the best days, yeah, maybe you go out in short sleeves and a shirt, but with your veil, please always your veil. And on days that are bad weather, I would expect a little bit more spice from them. You can always walk away, you can always take time, but that doesn't mean they're suddenly going to forgive you. It just means they've got an incredibly short fuse that you have to work with. So please have protective equipment. The last point on this slide, which is going to be the one we're going to talk about most of this, is that every queen that is created is an exact genetic copy of that hive, right? It's like a clone. And this is a really important thing for beekeepers who have strong opinions about what kind of bees they want and why people get really fussy about what bees they've got. So 2 ways queens get created naturally. One is a supersedure or emergency, right? This is when the pheromone diminishes. They're like, uh-oh. And they go and create queen cells along the middle of your frame. They look like little fingers. And they take a larva that's there, plop it in there, give it royal jelly because they need a queen, or bad things happen. They'll make more than one because they like redundancy, but then the queen's going to come out. First one comes out, it's going to go kill all the ones that haven't come out yet and then go murder the old queen. There can be only one. Yes?
I had, if I wouldn't happen to gone on Facebook afterward, I would not know that happened, but I was in the hive and I heard this loud, it was like a cicada sound, different. And I never heard that, and I knew the bees were upset, I knew something was going on.
Yeah.
But I just, left them alone and left. And then find out that either the queen was, they can't hear, leave me alone, or replacing.
Oh, yeah? You were there for the battle?
I was there, and that's why my bees were all upset.
Yeah.
I got stung 3 times, I've never been stung.
Yep. Yep. So supersedure is a natural occurrence. Queens get old, they get sick, and bees will take care of it. Why we care about this as a beekeeper, though, is if you see that this is happening, it is good to make a note that it is happening. Because once they do this, and you see those cells there, a new queen is supposed to come out. And a new queen is supposed to get mated and then start laying. This process will take, depending on when the cell is and whatever, anywhere from a few days to a few weeks. But you want to make a note of that, because if things aren't better by then, their eggs and other brood that were there are going to start getting hatched. And if that queen doesn't come back in time, their population is going to hit a wall and start declining. And if they don't recover in time, they can't try again. And then you have to intervene. So the timing of this starts to be something you keep an eye on. Usually they'll fix this with supersedure, but every now and then they make them and they go out and they die, they never come back, and then they run out of larvae. And then they can't. And then you have to buy a queen or do something else, like give them brood from another hive, and then they can start again.
You say mark the queen like that's an easy thing, but I'm not thinking it is. You said mark your queen so she's easier to find.
If you'd like, I don't do it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'd be afraid to hurt her. She's important.
Yeah, so you can get queen clips and clip her, and then you can finagle her into a special tube with the plunger to make it easier. Like, there's all kinds of ways to do it. I don't mess with it because I just don't care that much. But lots of people like to mark them or clip wings and stuff like that to make them easier. Well, the clipping wings doesn't do anything except make her less mobile, but the marking it is so easy to find a marked queen. And if you're really picky about your hives and their genetics, it will be an immediate indicator that they've superseded. And then maybe you have an opinion at that point.
I bought a little queen. I bought a little queen marker.
Yeah.
Tool that you can use for you.
Pin them down.
You set it on the frame, she catches in there, and then you just close the door essentially, and then push up the plunger. And
Yep.
put it on top.
Yeah.
It works. It works well. I bought it off Amazon.
Yep. It's just this funny little thing. It almost looks like a little paintbrush plunger, and it just kind of holds her down while you mark her. Yeah. There's very few versions of it that's out there, so it's like the only one that exists. You can grab queens with your fingers. I would recommend don't try to do it with gloves on, because it's too easy to squish her to death with gloves on, which means if you're nervous about it and you're going to try to grab a queen barehanded, you're going to go right on in there and get her. It's kind of nerve-wracking. Or you can put her in a clip and then work with her in private. Swarms are the other way queens get made, which is honeybees' natural way to create new colonies of bees. If they did not swarm, there would be no more honeybees. It's how a hive reproduces. Now, when they decide to swarm, they'll create a queen cell along the bottom of the frames. It's a good thing to consider adding it to your mental checklist of things you look for when you inspect to see if there are swarm cells. There's nothing really wrong with swarming, it's natural, but it can be pretty disruptive to whatever plans you thought you had for your beekeeping when half your hive disappears. Now, the reason beekeepers, we care about them, the swarming behavior, is because when a hive swarms, that's a hive that we don't get to have anymore. It leaves, unless you can catch it again. So if you want to grow your apiary, swarms are working against you. If you really want the most honey possible, swarming will set you back. That doesn't mean you won't get any, but half your hive leaves. So swarming is a thing we care about in some capacities. If you don't want to grow your apiary and you don't care about honey production, swarming's fine. Just let it happen. If you do want to grow your apiary or produce as much honey as possible, managing swarms matters. Yes?
If you put an empty hive in proximity to the hive that you have, will the swarm naturally go to that empty hive, or?
So you can put a bait in it, but other than that, you got no say in where they're about to go.
So it's a catch as catch can.
And it's a crapshoot.
It's total roll of the dice.
It's a roll of the dice.
Yeah.
Okay, so starting April 1st, you said go look for swarm cells, cut them out if you find them.
Nope. I will never tell you to cut a swarm cell because it won't do anything. They're going to do it again anyway. Once they've made the swarm cells, they're swarming.
I smash it.
Yeah.
I smash it if I don't want it to swarm. And then I just smash it. So
You can stop the swarm.
So this is a great debate topic. It's a yeah. So once they've made the swarm cell, they have made their declaration they're swarming. If you go cut their swarm cells, there's a very good chance that won't stop them. It just delays them. There are cases it'll work, but most of the time, if they've made the swarm cell, they really want to do it. It's hard to stop them at that point. There's ways to trick them, but the swarm is about to happen. You usually try to stop swarm behavior by preventing it, not dealing with the swarm cells themselves. You try to preempt it. Yes. So,
That queen catcher I talked about, Man Lake, one-handed queen catcher, it's $25, and it was, it's got a 4.6 rating. I think the 4.6 rating is the worst.
yeah.
But you know, Man Lake, one-handed queen catcher.
So the two main ways beekeepers have to prevent swarms. One is splitting your hives. And because you're splitting your hive prior to a swarm, so then they are like, oh, I have more work to do. Why would I swarm? You can give them space. It's a little less effective. It's part of the process, but it may not stop them. Genetics is a main factor as to why they swarm. You can do all of this and they may still swarm because genetically they want to go. So splitting is one way to stop swarms because you split prior to the instinct, which is why a lot of beekeepers start splitting in March and April. Is a little bit ahead of that. And then the demarré method of managing a hive is a way to kind of trick them a little bit into thinking there's no reason to swarm while preserving a fully intact hive. I think a couple months ago I did a little talk on that. I would say go look that one up because it makes no sense to me and I've never done it, but people swear by it. But the reason you would do this is I don't want to swarm, I don't want to split, and I want the bees for honey production. That's the main reasons people choose to do the demarré style of splitting your boxes, putting supers in between, and moving them around to trick them.
I did it last year.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yes.
If you're like me, I take too long to get in the bees anyway. I get really kind of biscuit about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I got any more honey out of it.
Yeah.
I got fall honey, which I definitely get.
Yeah, I got fall honey this year, or last year too, way more than I would have thought. So that's the demarré thing. That's another way to do it. Now, here's the thing that I was just talking about this with you before. If you see swarm cells, what do you do? So you can squish them and you can kill them. I will say, not great odds, but you can do it. So there's a very well, I would say well known, but like he's an actual professional beekeeper and not like a YouTuber. So his videos are really terrible, but highly informative. He has like 2,500 hives. His name's Bob Biddy. What he tells people to do is if you see swarm cells, you can force it into a split and hopefully convince them to stop their behavior. Because the problem with the hive that's swarming is they've made up their mind to do it. So you need to interrupt this somehow, and killing swarm cells may not pull it off. So the process for that is you take the existing queen, you split her into a new hive, you take the existing queen and you move her somewhere else. And you leave behind the swarm cells in the old hive. The existing queen in the new hive and the new stuff, this is a, oh, wait a minute, to them, so they don't want to swarm. And then the old hive you leave behind suddenly is queenless. And if you can time it right, the new queen comes out and they're like, well, that's great. And now you have two hives. This is not foolproof either. He tried it and it didn't work.
It didn't work.
Yep.
Okay, so when you move the queen over.
Yeah.
You take two of your
Yes.
frames of brood with her?
Yep. It's a
I
split.
just did what you said.
Yep.
And you gotta make sure they don't have a swarm cell on.
Right.
And they didn't have no swarm cell. I left two swarm cells in the old box that I left. I said, okay, maybe they'll both hatch, one kill the other, and then I'll be good. Well, Monday, they swarmed, and they're about 40 foot. And they're still there right now as we speak.
The ones that didn't have a queen or the ones that did?
The ones that didn't have the queen, and I left two swarms there in that,
And they swarmed.
and they swarmed. But it
But
was
they
about
had
a,
queen with them. Didn't think they would swarm without a queen.
The queen would have had to hatch and then leave.
see, I left two swarm cells in there so they could decide which one they wanted
Okay.
and go from there. But then they decided, both of them was still south, so I guess one decided they was gonna leave, so they left.
Was the
So
queen's
the
leaving
new
by
queen
mistake?
left.
I don't know, I started to go back in there and it was cloudy and I said, nah, I don't want to go down in there.
So when it comes to swarms, it is often the case we talk about swarms like it's a one-time deal, like the hive will swarm one time. That is not the case. If they make multiple swarm cells, it is more than possible they will swarm over and over and over again. It's called after swarms. That's one of the cases where going through and pinching the cells can help you, because swarming once is as good as swarming 3 times to them. So eliminating the future swarms can help. But if you miss them, they may swarm 2 or 3 times in a shot.
Yeah, the way I handle it is if I start seeing swarm cells, I will smash it, and I'll take some brains and root out the meter hives.
Mhm.
And then if I start seeing a whole bunch of swarm cells, meaning she's turned, they're good, then I'll split. And I'll take a queen, leave all the swarm cells behind, take the queen and some brains and root, put it in another hive. But I don't want to do it because I don't want to have to do it together.
Yeah.
What's a swarm cell human look like?
It's a swarm cell is a queen cell, so it's another finger-like cell. The only distinction between it is where it is. So a supersedure cell is on the middle of a frame, and a swarm cell hangs off the bottom, and that is the only difference. The fact that they put it in a physical location, that's what you get to look at.
And what do they do with the swarm cell?
The queen hatches, and then about half-ish of the bees leave with them to go make a new colony somewhere else. Yeah.
So the ones that are on the frame itself, that's because you have a weak queen?
Nope.
The ones that are in the
Oh, yes,
bottom is
yes.
Because you're overpopulated?
Because no, I wouldn't say overpopulated. Population is one of the factors of when they choose to swarm, but all bees want to swarm. It is how they reproduce. So there's a environmental component about like how crowded they feel, and there's a genetic component, which is they have the instinct to do it. So whenever that works for them, they're going to do the swarming thing, put the queen down there at the bottom, she's going to hatch, and then half of your bees are going to take off with them.
Is there a world where you have both?
Both supersedure and swarms? Absolutely. Yes, I had that a couple weeks ago. Yep.
That's also another way to get it pretty clean.
Yeah. Oh man, you're preempting me, but we're about to do that. Yeah. Okay. So we talked about some of the basics about queen stuff, and for early beekeeping stuff, really it's about keeping an eye on swarm behavior, making sure you have a laying queen. That's all you need to worry about. Eventually, you may have opinions about how you think your hives should be. Do you want them to be a hive that you get to fight with every time you come out? Do you want them to be gentle? Do you want to make super amounts of honey? Would you like to make tons of wax and propolis because you want to make candles? There are qualities you probably wish your bees had, and that's when caring about your queens and raising them matters. So like I said before, when they raise a queen, it's an exact copy of that hive. Their temperament, their productivity, all of that is an exact copy. So if you have a bunch of hives and one of them's like, I hate to admit it, but you're my favorite. And you have one over there, you're like, I hate when I have to work on you. Maybe you want to requeen them with one from the one you like, because it will copy those genetics. And if you have more than one hive, you will begin to notice these traits pretty clearly. There will be hives that are a joy to work with, really productive ones, and there are going to be some that are that's why you suit up. You're just like, here we go. So, supersedures. When they make emergency queens, they're always going to make more than one. You can take the others and use them to requeen into the hives that have less desirable traits. You just gently carve it out, and you can go wedge it into another hive. You do have to remove the queen in that other hive, or bad things will happen, but that's all you got to do. You can take that cell and move it on over. Yes?
You explain that wedge it into the other one, you just stick it against a frame.
Yeah, so if you think about the queen cell as like a peanut, you can just get up under it with your hive tool and carve it out, and you'll have a little peanut. And then you can just go into another frame in that other hive, and you can kind of make a little indentation, just stick it in there. Stick it into the frame. Just put her, it's going to hang down, hang vertically. And you're just going to, it's a frame with wax, you're just going to stick it in. That's it.
It doesn't have to be on the bottom.
Nope, just wedge it into the wax. Yeah.
I did have some fun happening the other day. I was doing that.
Mhm.
And I got too close to the thing and I cracked open. She crawled right out.
Yeah.
Oh, it's queen. So I got my one-hand queen tool and I caught her and I put her in the hive. And I
Yeah.
just in case, I did take some photos.
Mhm.
But I'll be interested to see it in the next 2 weeks or so. if she's prepping.
Yeah.
Can you do the same thing with the swarm cell? Can you just cut it off?
Yes, you can. The trick with a swarm cell, so in a technical sense, not that this matters really, is so an emergency queen or supersedure queen is the bees are going to make that queen with whatever they can get. They're not very choosy. They just need a queen. So they will choose larva that is readily available, which might be older, which means a slightly lesser developed queen. When they do a swarm cell, they're preparing. So they will take the ideal youngest larva, and that queen is typically better developed. So if you're highly opinionated, swarm queens will be better developed than emergency queens. But once swarm cells exist, there's the complication of the swarm happening. The only real thing about using supersedures to requeen is timing can get kind of tricky because you don't know when that larva was put in, which means you can't easily judge when that queen is going to emerge. Again, that only matters if you're trying to do like a set at once. You may not know when she's about to hatch, and that's the day you really want to watch for because once she hatches, she'll kill the others. So you want to catch it before that happens, and there's like a few days where you can pull that off. So timing's hard with supersedure because you don't know their age.
So I was going to the bee association in Fayetteville
Uh-huh.
last year.
Boo, I'm kidding.
Anyway, they had somebody come in and talk about having to introduce a new queen.
Yeah.
How you had to hang her on the.
Yes.
So you're saying that it doesn't have to do that, you can just pop it out?
They're not hatched.
So yeah, let's back up. So when your supersedure cells are like little peanuts, they're a wax case that the queen is inside. You carve that out. You take that whole peanut that is intact and put it in there. The queen will hatch from that later.
I think what she got lost was those cages that they talked about.
Yes.
That's already hatched.
Yeah.
In fact, it's already mated.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you
Once
buy,
they get out of the peanut, it's an unmated queen,
yeah.
larva to attach.
Yeah, so when you buy queens, they'll come in a little cage. They'll be in the cage with some attendant bees and sugar. And yes, to install that, you have to you wedge it down into the frames just so it can be there and the bees can work on it, which is arguably the same thing you do with the cells, just not quite as, I don't know. It's more or less the same, but wedging that box in there is maybe easier. I don't know, but it's a live queen. They eat their way into it and then she can come out.
But she is already mated too. So
Yes, she's going to start immediately. So she's,
The other ones have to hatch.
yeah. So when you're doing this stuff, there's a high risk that this doesn't work because she has to come out and then fly, mate, and return successfully. And that is a highly risky endeavor. The queens you buy are fully mated, so almost nothing can go wrong provided the hive accepts them, and they almost always will because the cage allows this to work.
For $50 a larva, what grade is it?
Yeah.
I use this one. I'm not gonna think that-
Yeah. Once you get more than like 2 or 3 hives, the price tag on those queens starts feeling really heavy. So swarm cells, again, you can catch swarm cells, move them to new hives to split. Check out what Bob Binney says about how to do that if you want to try to prevent the swarm somewhere else. And the last way to get queens is to graft queens. Has anyone done that before? Yeah. So I can imagine. I've done it as well. So queen grafting. This is like, I really, really care about making queens. And I'm willing to work for it. So it builds on everything we know about queens already. What we do is we find the hive that has the traits that we like. And then we get in there with some big old magnifying glasses and this tiny, tiny little tool. And we start scraping out these impossible to see tiny larvae. And they are really hard to see. And you're trying to do this in this little tool where you can't see because it's in the way, and you're scooping them out. And then you're trying to deposit them into queen cups, little plastic queen cups. So you're putting them all in there. Then you take that and you put it into a hive that has no queen in it and is highly motivated to have a queen. And you put those in and they're like, awesome. And so they start to develop the queen cells for you. with that graft that you gave them. Then you come back in 10 days, 10 days, because you know exactly when you did this. It takes them 10 days. And they will have made queen cells. Every little graft will have a queen. And then you can take them and use them for whatever you want. If you wait one more day, a queen is going to come out and kill every single one of them. You can bank them, you can do a lot of stuff with them, but you're raising queens in a high, like you can raise up to 120 queens at a pass doing this. Every 10 days, you can make 120 queens. Why you would do this? Because you want, because you can sell queens. And if you just think about the math of like, it's an easy way to, I shouldn't say it's not an easy way, but it's a way early in the season to make a chunk of change. Now, if you want to do this and sell queens, you do have to be inspected and all of that. Once you get the queens, you're going to have to bank them, incubate them, package them. There's a whole pile of work that goes into it. But if you're just a beekeeper and you don't care about selling them, you could do this so that you can, again, you could say every year, I want to just make my apiary the best traits across the board and re-queen with a pile of queens right out of the gate. That's why you might do that. Yeah.
Should you replace your queen every year?
It's up to you. There's plenty of people who say you should. Queens will live 3 to 5 years by themselves. The people who say to requeen every single year are saying that because they don't want to deal with any kind of deficiencies that come with an older queen. So they'll requeen towards, you either requeen in the spring or you requeen towards the end of fall. Different opinions about why you would do either. But I would say, yeah, there's plenty of people who say you should. But again, it's a preference. For the price tag, I can't afford to requeen every year. This is a thing I could do, but it's a pile of work. Like you have to have, I would say a minimum, you need, an absolute minimum, you need 2 hives that are perfect to pull this off. More than likely, you need 3 or 4 hives to pull this off. So you need to have an established apiary where you can manipulate the hives to make one queenless temporarily, do the grafting, come back in 10 days, bank them, incubate them, it's a whole lot of work, but you can get a lot of queens out of it. And it takes practice. Yeah, like trying to do the grafting is, you don't just go in there and be like, I'm going to figure that out. It's hard work. You will make a huge mess of it, and you won't know you get it right because it's so hard to see. Just as a gross tidbit, when I learned how to do grafting, you're using this little tool, and you're digging into this stuff, and it's going to get slimy with all kinds of eggs and larvae that you squish, little bits of royal jelly. It's just going to get all gunked up, and you won't be able to see. You already can't see, but now you really can't because it's just all with this white slime. So I said, what do you do? And he said, lick it. The professionals just, and keep working. And I was like, that's baloney. And he said, I'll show you. And he went and started working. I was like, how many of these do you do in a day? And he's like, 800. You got to be serious. You got to really want it. But grafting is a fascinating process, but it's about controlling the genetics of your hives. And if you want your hives to be like more similar than dissimilar, moving queens around and using the supersedure swarm cells or grafting is a way to create an apiary that is more even into your liking. Yes.
So when the queen goes off to get mated, she makes numerous drones.
Yeah.
How is it that her genetics are the same?
Yeah, I didn't dwell on this. So her genetics were identical, but when she mates, she brings in new genetics from the mates, and now the new eggs are the mix.
By the way?
They're mixed genetics.
Yeah, but each egg would be a little bit different depending on which drone.
Yes. Yeah.
Fertilized it,
Right. So when I say they're a clone, they are a clone of that moment with that queen, because that would be true. But we can't guarantee how many, like what drone's genetic material went into which egg. We can't say that.
No.
Yeah. So when your queen hatches, even though we could say a lot about the genetics of who she is, because your whole hive has those characteristics, once she comes out and flies away, the egg she lays will have slightly different traits because of the drones she mated with. So it's one of the variables you deal with, where you could say, I love this queen, I love this hive, I made queens, they fly off, and I have one that's still kind of crappy and one whatever because they mated with drones with spicy genes. It happens.
Right, so some of the workers might be spicy and some might not, but you can't really differentiate.
Yeah, as a hive, they'll have like a overwhelming set of characteristics, even though individuals may slightly be different. So that's what you look at. Like overall, is that a easier hive to work at than that hive? So you're selectively selecting into the traits you like, even though you can't control the specifics. Yeah. So we are 5 minutes over. So I do want to wrap this up so we can do our 50-50. But I will stick around for any other questions you all have. If you want to exchange phone numbers with friends and neighbors so you don't have to go through this alone, please do that.
Did anybody
And
else
thank
want to
you.
buy any tickets? Big price. Got $25 online, splitting down to 13. Here we go. Secretary.